The starter home you're living in right now could be the best real estate investment you ever make. Today's guest was buying a new primary home for his growing family a couple of years ago. And even though he was putting 20% down on his new house, he was still able to keep the townhouse he was previously living in as a rental property that now cash flows more than $1,000 every month. Instead of selling his starter home, he even did a full renovation that wound up increasing his income by more than $1,500 per month, and he didn't even come out of pocket for the rehab cash. The key to this whole deal was a potential source of cash that many investors overlook. Let's hear what it was. Hey everyone, I'm Dave Meyer. I am a rental property investor and I'm the head of real estate investing here at BiggerPockets. Today's guest on the show is an investor named Ryan Johnston from Alpharetta, Georgia. In today's video, sponsored by Figure, we're going to hear about Ryan's career in real estate and go deep on one deal that turned his family's townhome into a rental property when they moved into a new primary residence. Now I get it, you may assume that you need to sell one house to buy another, especially if your previous home is a little outdated. But Ryan found a way to have it all. He bought the new house his family wanted. He renovated his starter home that now generates $5,000 a month in rental income, and he even avoided coming out of pocket for the 60 grand he needed to make it all happen. It's a really cool story about a very common opportunity that investors may find themselves. So I'm excited to share all the details with you. Let's bring on Ryan. Ryan, welcome to the show. Thank you for being here.
Super excited. Thanks for having me, Dave.
Absolutely. Maybe you could start by just telling us a little bit about yourself. What's your background and how do you find yourself becoming a real estate investor?
It was one of those things where kind of like the TV shows, you see real estate and you just think there's easy money in it. The first time I tried it, I got kicked in the teeth, had to get out of the industry in a few months after I burned through all my money. And that was really my first foray into trying sales. It is much harder than it seems. It's not like $1 Million Listing, apparently. But it planted the seeds of just what was possible, especially I did some luxury leasing and Class A high rises. And the idea of just having a building or something that was mine really kind of fueled that fire a little bit.
They sure do make it look easy on TV, but like many of us, the first time you get into it, you learn quickly that this is a business and it takes hard work, but the money is there. Like if you do go out there and work hard and get good at this craft, you can absolutely make a good living. So Ryan, it sounds like you moved down to Atlanta, you're living there for a while, but at some point you wanted to buy your own primary residence, right?
When I met my now wife, I had been living in a condo at the time and we kind of just wanted our own place. She moved into the condo with me for a little bit. And then when we had our first daughter, that was really what was the turning point to getting into the suburbs and getting a little bit more space, kind of slowing down from the city feel. She's born and raised in Georgia, so she's very familiar. She has some family in the northern suburbs. And the more I spent time up there working and with clients showing them properties, I kind of just fell in love with it myself. And that's what brought us to Alpharetta.
All right, so you're living in this townhome and, fortunately you get blessed with another baby. Congratulations. What do you do from there?
It's a scary thought because all of a sudden we're looking at a new residence. The market was still very hot right now. This was 2022. We kind of started getting the idea of, hey, we may need more space. And it really kind of became a situation of, well, we could sell this that had appreciated in a very short period of time, or not wanting to sacrifice the interest rate and the location. I started trying to figure out if there was a way that would make sense to actually rent it out and still be able to acquire the next property. Some of the maintenance costs, the property needed to be renovated. And that was kind of one of those things where being in a little bit more of an affluent area where you have a lot of corporate relocations, empty nesters, people coming in for work, I knew the way we had the property, we probably wouldn't be able to get a lot for it on the rental front for it to make sense. And I was hoping to at least break even based on where we were.
Given the way it was laid out, current level of finishes, you don't think you're even breaking even on this thing. So what do you do? Did you just, how big of a rental difference was it? And did you decide to renovate?
We got a little lucky with another townhouse in a neighboring community that was right in the heart of the new mixed use development, had rented out. And it rented out for much higher than I thought it would. And to me, it was kind of setting a potential ceiling as what could be achieved. Now, not being right in that development, we didn't have that same walkability and proximity, but I thought there was a path to potentially get close to it. In my mind, prior to going through all this, I thought our rental range would probably be somewhere in the 3 to 3,500. And this unit had rented out.
Pretty good.
Yeah, I mean, all things considered, not bad, but we were very close to the expenses, especially this community has a very high HOA fee.
Yeah.
The neighboring property rented out at 6,800. So that kind of got the wheels spinning a little bit of trying to figure out. Yeah, like what can we do to tap into that? That sounded.
Yeah, that gives you a lot of wiggle room to play with a renovation. But I imagine you sort of come up with a capital limitation here, right? Because you own this townhome, you're trying to go buy another home, you're trying to renovate. There's a lot of cash needs at that point. So what'd you do from there?
The cash flow was a problem at the time. Being in real estate and 1099, qualifying for anything is always difficult. You know, as much as we can potentially make, I'm always incentivized to show as little as possible, which is counterintuitive to getting a loan of any kind. And at the time, I was also, I did a brief stint in the cryptocurrency industry. So a lot of my liquid capital and net worth was tied up in that side, which no lender was really touching. Was still before the crypto-backed loans, which I know are now offered more frequently. So I was talking to the local lenders, the credit unions. I thought maybe they would have a better chance at qualifications or getting a better rate. But everyone kind of wanted to go through the same 30+ day process. We had to go through underwriting, a full-blown appraisal, and it was just not only time-consuming, but it didn't really make a lot of sense on the cost front. And I was just stumbling upon online lender options. Being in real estate, like tons of clients had worked with Quicken and Better and some of the other ones before. And then I just got pointed in the direction of Figure. I had never heard of them before, but that was kind of the first company I stumbled upon that might have made everything make sense as being an actual option.
So what did Figure offer you that these other options didn't?
At the end of the day, a lot of it just came down to simplicity. Looking at all the others, it just felt like a clunkier, more traditional process. And we're just not really in that age anymore. Similarly, where I always kind of gravitate to my iPhone, it just feels kind of clean and crisp compared to an Android. No offense to anyone that has an Android.
No, I have an iPhone, but you're going to make half the world mad.
Yeah, it's all right. Probably just lost a client somewhere here. But part of it's just the interface, the website. It was clean and crisp. It was easy to use, easy to understand. All of the documents and requirements were just right there to be able to upload. I got an answer very quickly. If I needed to get a hold of an actual representative, they were available, which there is one that helped me verifying some of my self-employed stuff throughout the process. But even with that, a lot of it was on me to get the money as quickly as possible. As fast as I could move along the process, they were willing to do that. When you add in the digital appraisal, which meant I didn't have to pay a fee to have somebody come out and wait all that time. It didn't go through the traditional underwriting closing. They came to our house to sign documents, and we were just able to have the cash very quickly to be able to get started with our contractors. For me, it was really all about simplicity, and something I felt very comfortable with. I would highly recommend.
What Ryan's talking about here is a HELOC, which just stands for a home equity line of credit. And it's a really cool tool that real estate investors or homeowners can use to access the equity that they have built up in their property. What happens is often people put 20% down, which is a significant chunk of their net worth, or if they own a property for a while, over time, that equity grows and grows. And there's a lot of money sitting there that you can't really access unless you go and sell the property or you can refinance it. But in today's day and age, a lot of people don't want to refinance and lose the rate that they have on their existing mortgage. And so lines of credit, specifically home equity lines of credit, offer a really good way for homeowners or investors to tap into that equity, which they can then use for renovation or even to go out and acquire new properties. So how much did you wind up pulling out? What was the renovation going to cost you?
We took right about $60,000, and a lot of that was focused on trying to get as much from a cosmetic update that I could to entice the corporate relocations and the empty nesters without going full-blown renovation. It's a well-built community, so we focus on the kitchen. We were able to just repaint and reface the cabinets, chop down kind of that old heightened bar that you get, so it's just a nice clean look, redoing some hardware, countertops, backsplash. We stripped the floors to give it more of a natural look, just kind of let the light in more. Also made it pet friendly with some AstroTurf in the back, and just made it so that if an incoming tenant was going to have pets, we didn't have to worry about them ruining the yard or have that added expensive maintenance as well.
That's great. So what, $1 million question here. What did you get for rents after you did the renovation?
So it's been rented the past 3 years, just at a flat $5,000 a month.
Amazing. So like that's maybe $1,500 to $2,000 a month you're getting on top of what you thought you could have gotten.
Got to that with just knowing that we could probably stretch it and push 55 or maybe a little bit more. But I'm just on the mindset of minimal downtime. So we were able to get somebody in there right away. We had multiple applicants at the 5,000. Even with working with the tenants, we let them know, hey, if you're not going to leave, like, we're going to accommodate showings and relisting within that 60-day window of expiring. So we've been fortunate where over the 3 years, I think there's maybe been a total of 9 days that's been vacant. And part of that is sacrificing a little bit on the monthly rent to keep it enticing, but also just being realistic. I think landlords can shoot for the stars a lot of times, and those vacancies are just brutal.
That's amazing, though. I'm trying to just do the math in my head. So even on the low end, if you got $1,500 a month times 12, what is that? $18,000 a year. You spend $60,000 on it, so you're getting 30% ROI on that renovation.
Yeah,
unbelievable. That's awesome. So let's just break down the numbers here. So what is the mortgage PITI costing you every month?
Yeah. So at the time when we rented it out, it was about $2,150.
Okay.
And the monthly HOA fee was $585.
That is, you weren't kidding. That's expensive.
That's actually pushing $700 now a month. So we really needed to kind of buffer for that.
Yeah, that is pretty close. If after repairs and maintenance, that's cutting it a little too thin. So then what do you pay on the HELOC now?
It was $389 a month, which the loan term and everything made it so that the numbers still made sense, even on the conservative side. Because at the end of the day, I was looking at it, I believe when we were thinking about selling the property or doing the renovation, there was maybe a total of $200,000 that would have come out of it. And it really became a question of like, what would we do with that money otherwise? Of course, we could have just thrown in an index fund, and that would have done really well the past few years. It kind of hindsight's 2020, but even in a high yield savings account, it just, to keep the mortgage at the 3% and keep the property in the prime area, for me, it was worth the potential opportunity cost of just holding on to it.
Yeah, I mean, it makes a lot of sense to me because I'm just trying to add this up as we go here. You're $2,150 on your mortgage. You've gone up to $700 on your HOA, just rounding your HELOC payment up to $400 roughly, right? You're at $3,250. So even after expenses, maintenance, repairs, that kind of stuff, you're still cash flowing at least $1,000 a month, right?
Yeah. So now with the rising costs of the HOA and insurance, our mortgage is just under $2,400. The HOA is $685. And the HELOC I pay additional principal on, so that's a total of $650 a month.
Okay.
I was trying to keep it so that we're cash flowing at least $1,000 a month.
That's amazing. Is that money just going into future real estate deals?
So I've been kind of just allocating capital to the side to hopefully go into a larger multifamily, like 10 to 20 unit development once something potentially comes up, especially with the commercial side feeling like it's a little bit down the past year. I'm hoping maybe before 2030, we could get a bigger acquisition.
Nice. Good for you. That's great. Ryan, your story is just really interesting because it's a conundrum that I think a lot of people are facing right now. You buy a starter home. Hopefully you bought in one of those times or refinanced into a 3% mortgage or something like that. But life happens. You got to move. You got to do something. And I think a lot of people are in this position. Do you sell the home? Do you rent it out or do what you did, which is not just rent it out, but actually go and make improvements? So do you have any advice for people who are facing a similar decision about what they should consider and how they should go about executing on this kind of deal if they so choose?
Yeah, I think a lot of it is just really understanding the numbers and someone's risk tolerance and their appetite for one being a landlord or taking on the additional projects. Even with the interest rates having gone up, if I was to redraw on the HELOC, the number would be higher, but there's more options. So like Figure has now incorporated crypto-backed loans, the assets that I can use to kind of justify some of the capital that would be used for other projects may be a little bit different because it's easier to get money now. Lending has just, even though there's higher rates, it's gotten so much more competitive where there's still ways to make it advantageous to you if you just play the long game, talk to multiple vendors, and just understand the different products.
You know, we have tools on BiggerPockets that can help you with this. Clearly, you've worked with Figure, and they've been able to help you with this as well. But just run the numbers, right? This doesn't have to be a mystery. It's just math. You can figure this out for yourself, and highly recommend that you do what Ryan did. Figure out, do the math, do your research, and figure out for yourself if this can make sense. And Ryan, congratulations on putting together a deal that has put you in such a good financial position.
I appreciate it.
All right. Well, thank you so much for joining us today, Ryan. We really appreciate it.
Thank you for having me. I really appreciate being here.
And thank you all for tuning in to the BiggerPockets YouTube channel. We'll see you all next time.